The Hindu Kush mountains cut the sky like broken teeth. Jagged peaks, 10,000 feet of stone and ice, stretched across the Afghanistan-Pakistan border in a wall that had turned back empires for 3,000 years. The Soviets learned that lesson the hard way. February 1985. The air at this altitude didn't just bite, it burned. Every breath scraped the lungs raw. Every movement cost twice the energy it should. The cold worked its way through layers of wool and canvas, through skin and muscle, settling deep in the bones where no amount of willpower could dislodge it. Mara Sinclair was 23 years old and already knew how to kill a man from a mile away. She lay prone on a ridgeline that overlooked the valley below, white camouflage draped over her body, Barrett M82 rifle pressed against her shoulder. The weapon weighed 30 pounds. After 6 hours in position, it felt like twice that. Her spotter crouched beside her, scanning the valley through high-powered optics. Below them, a Soviet convoy wound through the mountain pass. 3 BTR-80 armored personnel carriers, 2 Ural trucks, 1 command vehicle. 40 soldiers, give or take. They moved with the caution of men who knew they were being watched. They were right to be cautious. The radio in Mara's ear crackled. A voice, American, Southern accent worn smooth by decades of military service. "Ghost, this is Viper. I count 40 hostiles. Priority target is the colonel in the command vehicle. Range is 1,400 meters. Wind is gusting 15 to 20 knots. Variable direction. Your call." 1,400 meters, just under a mile. Most snipers couldn't make that shot on a calm day at sea level. This wasn't a calm day. This was the Hindu Kush. The wind howled through the passes like the breath of God, changing direction every few seconds. The air was thin enough to throw off every calculation. The cold made fingers stiff, made breathing irregular. Mara checked her calculations one more time. Elevation adjustment, wind compensation, temperature correction, Coriolis effect. She ran the numbers in her head like a prayer. Her finger rested on the trigger. Steady, patient. A sniper doesn't shoot first. A sniper shoots last, and only once. The wind dropped. Just for a moment, 5 seconds of relative calm in the chaos. Mara exhaled slowly, held the empty space between breaths. The rifle kicked against her shoulder. The sound echoed across the valley, a thunderclap that sent birds scattering from distant trees. 1,400 meters away, the Soviet colonel's head snapped back. He dropped like a marionette with cut strings. The convoy erupted in chaos. Soldiers scattered, shouting orders, returning fire at shadows. They had no idea where the shot came from. At that range, in those conditions, it seemed impossible. But Mara Sinclair didn't deal in impossible. She dealt in dead. The radio crackled again. "Confirmed kill. Target down. Ghost, that was the finest piece of shooting I've seen in 30 years. Let's move before they triangulate our position." Mara rolled away from the ridgeline, already breaking down the rifle. Her spotter gathered the gear. They moved like smoke through the rocks, disappearing into the mountains before the Soviets could even begin to search. 3 hours later, they reached the safe house, a mud brick compound that looked like it had stood since Alexander the Great marched through these passes. Inside, warmth and light and the smell of strong coffee. A man waited for them. Late 30s, gray already creeping into his dark hair, eyes that had seen too much and remembered all of it. Captain Declan Hale. He carried authority like some men carry scars. "That shot was magnificent," Hale said. He poured coffee into tin cups, handed one to Mara. 1,400 meters in mountain wind. Most operators can't make that shot in their dreams. Mara wrapped her hands around the cup, letting the heat seep into frozen fingers. "I got lucky with the wind." Luck is what amateurs call skill. Hale studied her with the intensity of a man evaluating an investment. "You've been with the program for 3 years. 27 confirmed kills, 0 misses. That's not luck, Sinclair. That's talent. Talent gets you killed if you start believing your own press." Hale smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. That's exactly why you're going to survive this war. You understand that confidence kills. Humility keeps you breathing. He pulled a folder from his pack. Classified. Red stripes across the cover. Top secret, special access required. I'm recommending you for advancement. Special Activities Division. Deep cover operations. The kind of work that never makes it into official records. The kind of operators who don't officially exist. Mara looked at the folder. She didn't reach for it. What's the catch? The catch is that if you accept, you disappear. No official record, no medals, no recognition. You become a ghost. If you're captured, we deny you exist. If you're killed, there's no funeral, no flag on a coffin, no name on a wall in Washington. And if I say no, then you go back to being one of the best snipers in the agency. You'll have a long career, retire with honors, get a pension, a normal life. Mara stared into her coffee. The choice should have been difficult. Safety versus danger. Recognition versus obscurity. A normal life versus disappearing into the shadows. But she'd never been normal. When do I start? Hale's smile widened, genuine this time. You already have. Welcome to the shadows, Ghost. That was 39 years ago. The cabin sat at the end of a dirt road that most maps didn't acknowledge existed. Montana wilderness, 70 miles from the nearest town. No neighbors, no traffic, just pine trees and mountains in silence. Mara Sinclair stood on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise paint the peaks in shades of gold and crimson. She was 62 years old. Gray streaked her dark hair. Lines marked her face, not laugh lines, but the kind that came from decades of squinting through rifle scopes and sleeping in places where closing your eyes meant trusting someone else to keep watch. Her hands shook slightly. They'd been shaking for 5 years. Not Parkinson's, not age, guilt. The official diagnosis from the VA psychiatrist was post-traumatic stress disorder, delayed onset, common in operators who spent decades in combat zones. The shaking would fade with time and therapy, they said. They were wrong. The shaking had nothing to do with combat. It had to do with the men she'd left behind. Inside the cabin, Mara's life could fit into 3 boxes: clothes, books, photographs she couldn't look at but couldn't throw away. No television, no internet, just a radio for weather reports and a satellite phone that hadn't rung in 3 years. Until today. The phone sat on the kitchen table, black, weathered, scratched from years of field use. The kind of sat phone that cost $15,000 and could make calls from anywhere on Earth. She'd kept it charged out of habit, muscle memory from decades of operational readiness. When it rang, the sound cut through the cabin like an alarm. Mara stared at it. 3 rings. 4. 5. No one had this number. She'd made sure of that. She picked up on the 6th ring. Static, then a voice, distorted, run through some kind of encryption software that turned human speech into something alien. Lennox alive. Iraq. 21 years. Viper. The line went dead. Mara's hands didn't shake anymore. They were perfectly steady as she set down the phone. Perfectly steady as she walked to the bedroom. Perfectly steady as she opened the closet and pulled out the box she'd sworn she'd never open again. Inside, military gear, body armor, tactical vest, K-bar knife, and wrapped in oilcloth, her M1911 pistol. The same sidearm she'd carried since 1985. Nearly 40 years old, still functioned perfectly. She held the pistol, felt its weight, remembered every time she'd fired it. Lieutenant Garrett Lennox, 23 years old in 2003, young, brilliant, the kind of operator who could read a battlefield like poetry, Hale's protege, Hale's favorite, and Mara had left him to die. The official story said Lennox died in a firefight outside Ramadi, killed in action, body not recovered. His name went on the memorial wall at Langley. His family got a flag and condolences from a grateful nation. The truth was more complicated. The truth was classified at levels that didn't officially exist. The truth was that Mara had made a choice, mission or man. She chose the mission. She'd been living with that choice for 21 years. Now the phone said Lennox was alive. Mara looked at her reflection in the bedroom mirror. 62 years old, retired, done. She'd earned her peace. She'd earned the right to disappear into these mountains and let the world forget her name. But Ghost had never been good at letting go. She started packing. Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, Bethesda, Maryland, 400 miles from the Montana wilderness, but it might as well have been a different planet. Mara drove. No flights. She didn't fly anymore. Not since the helicopter crash in 2003. Not since she'd crawled from burning wreckage while men she knew screamed inside. The drive took 11 hours. She stopped once for gas and coffee, kept moving. The sat phone sat on the passenger seat, silent. No more messages. Viper was Declan Hale's call sign. Had been for nearly 40 years. If Hale sent that message, it meant three things. The information was credible, the situation was desperate, and official channels were closed. Walter Reed loomed ahead. White buildings, manicured lawns, American flags snapping in the March wind. The place where warriors came to die slowly instead of quickly. Mara parked in visitor parking, walked through security, showed ID, her real ID, not the half-dozen false identities she still maintained out of habit. The guard waved her through. Oncology ward, 4th floor, room 412. General Declan Hale looked like a man who'd been carved from stone and then left to weather. 78 years old, gaunt, the kind of thin that came from disease eating you from the inside. An IV drip ran into his arm. Monitors beeped steady rhythms. His eyes were closed. But when Mara stepped into the room, those eyes opened. Still sharp, still calculating. "Hello, kid." Kid. He'd been calling her that since she was 23. Nearly 4 decades hadn't changed it. "You look terrible," Mara said. "Stage 4 lung cancer. 3 months, give or take. Doctor says 2 if I'm unlucky, 4 if I'm stubborn." Hale's smile was thin. "I'm very stubborn." Mara pulled a chair to the bedside, sat. "You sent me a message." "I did." "Lennox is alive." "He is." "You told me he died in 2003. You ordered me to leave him. You said the extraction was compromised. You said bringing him out would expose the entire operation." "I lied." The words hung in the air between them. 21 years of deception, 21 years of guilt, all reduced to 2 words. Mara's hands clenched into fists, not shaking now, perfectly steady with rage. "Why?" Hale looked out the window. Dawn light painted the room in pale gold. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, tired, the voice of a man who'd carried too much for too long. The mission in 2003 was black. No congressional approval, no official authorization. We were hunting a weapons cache that Saddam's regime supposedly buried before the invasion. Chemical weapons, biological agents, the kind of nightmare that could kill millions if it fell into the wrong hands. I remember the mission. What you don't remember is that the intelligence was fabricated. CIA asset in Baghdad made it up. Wanted to collect the finder's fee from 3 different governments. We walked into an ambush, lost 4 operators. Lennox was captured. I made a choice. If he talked, if he told them about the illegal operation, congressional hearings, criminal charges, the entire program shut down, decades of work, hundreds of operators exposed. So you left him to die. You told everyone he was dead. You put his name on the memorial wall. I told everyone he was dead because I believed he would be. Iraqi intelligence doesn't keep prisoners for 21 years. They interrogate them, break them, execute them. I thought we'd find his body eventually. We never did. Hale turned his gaze back to Mara. His eyes were wet. She'd never seen him cry. Not in nearly 40 years. I've lived with that decision every day for 21 years. Every time I walk past his name on that wall. Every time I see his mother at the memorial service, every time I look in the mirror, I left him. I ordered you to leave him. That's on me, not you. Me. You could have told me the truth. Would it have made a difference? Would you have slept better knowing he might be alive? Knowing there was nothing you could do? Mara stood, walked to the window, looked out at the grounds below. Wounded warriors in wheelchairs, nurses making rounds, normal people living normal lives while people like her and Hale made the decisions that kept the world from burning. How do you know he's alive? Victor Cade. The name hit like a punch. Mara turned. Cade. He went private sector 10 years ago. Blackwood Solutions. Mercenary work. Last I heard he was running protection contracts in Africa. He was, until ISIS collapsed. Then he moved into recovery operations, high-value targets, hostages, prisoners. He stumbled onto Lennox 6 months ago during a contract in Iraq. Black site near Ramadi, Sunni militia remnant, former Saddam intelligence officers who scattered after the invasion and came back when ISIS fell. Why didn't Cade extract him? Hale's expression darkened. Because Cade isn't in the rescue business. He's in the selling business. Lennox knows too much. Black operations, illegal missions, names, dates, operations that never made it into official records. Russia would pay millions for that information. China, North Korea, every enemy we've made in nearly 40 years would love to get their hands on an operator who can verify what they suspect but can't prove. So Cade wants to auction him off. Cade already has. The sale happens in 2 weeks. Highest bidder. After that, Lennox disappears. Real disappearance, not the fake kind I arranged. Mara processed this, turned it over in her mind, looked for the angles, the traps. Why tell me? Why not send active operators, Delta, SEAL Team 6? We've got assets who could run this extraction. Because this operation is even more illegal than 2003, no congressional approval, no official authorization. If we send active operators and they're captured, it's an international incident. If you're captured, you're a civilian contractor, former operator, plausible deniability. Plausible deniability? You mean expendable. I mean that I can't send anyone official, but I can ask someone who owes me nothing to do what's right. Mara laughed. No humor in it, just bitterness. I owe you nothing? You trained me. You made me into Ghost. You've been manipulating me for nearly 40 years. Then don't do it for me. Hale's voice was urgent now, desperate. Do it for Lennox. He's been in hell for 21 years, waiting, hoping, believing that someone would come. He doesn't deserve to die alone in a cell because I made a political calculation 2 decades ago. He deserves better than me. I'm the one who left him. Then be the one who brings him home. Silence. The monitors beeped. The IV dripped. Outside somewhere, a patient screamed. Medical staff rushed past. Mara looked at Hale. Really looked. Saw past the general, past the legend. Saw a dying old man trying to make peace with his sins before cancer finished what bullets never could. I'm 62 years old. I haven't been operational in 5 years. My hands shake. I can't run like I used to. I can't fight like I used to. You need someone younger, faster, better. I need someone who understands what this costs. Someone who won't quit. Someone who knows how to bring people home from places that don't exist on maps. Hale reached out. His hand was skeletal. Mara took it anyway. I need Ghost. Mara closed her eyes, felt the weight settling back onto her shoulders. The weight she tried to put down 5 years ago. The weight that came with being someone people called when impossible was the baseline. When she opened her eyes, the decision was made. I'll need a team. Hale's smile was genuine this time, relief flooding his features. I already made some calls. The team assembled 3 days later at a private hangar outside Baltimore, the kind of place that didn't appear on FAA records. The kind of place where questions weren't asked. Mara arrived first. She'd spent the 72 hours preparing, physical training, range time, medical checkup, getting her body and mind back into operational shape. The shaking in her hands had stopped, not because of therapy, because she had purpose again. The first to arrive was Cole Brennan, 59 years old, broad shoulders, thick forearms, the build of a man who'd spent decades lifting heavy things and setting them down gently or explosively, depending on the mission requirements. Gray hair, cut military short, scars on his hands from det cord and shrapnel. He walked across the hangar floor with the slight limp of a man carrying old injuries. Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Colombia. Brennan had run operations on 6 continents, Force Recon, then Delta, then private sector when the military decided 50 was too old for the field. He stopped in front of Mara, studied her. "Boss." "Cole. Heard you retired. Montana. Middle of nowhere. Living the dream." "Dreams overrated." "Hale said you're running a recovery op. Iraq. Black site. No official support. That's the mission." "Who's the package?" "Garrett Lennox." Brennan's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. Anger. Old wounds reopening. "I was on that mission in 2003. I saw them take him. I told Hale we could get him back. He ordered me to report Lennox as KIA, told me to keep my mouth shut, threatened court-martial if I talked." "Why didn't you go rogue? Why didn't you come get him yourself?" "Because I was a sergeant with a family, 3 daughters, a wife. Hale had leverage. He said if I went public, my family would pay the price. So I kept quiet. Hated myself for 21 years, but I kept quiet." Brennan looked past Mara, at the darkness beyond the hangar, at ghosts only he could see. "My daughters are grown now. My wife passed 2 years ago. Cancer. I've got nothing left to lose. If you're going after Lennox, I'm coming with you." "It's a suicide mission, Cole. The odds." "I don't care about odds. I care about debt. I owe Lennox 21 years. Time to pay up." Mara extended her hand. Brennan shook it. His grip was still solid, still strong. "Welcome back to the war." The second arrival was Dr. Catherine Aldridge, 54 years old, red hair going white, green eyes that had seen the inside of too many field hospitals. Surgeon's hands, steady, precise. The kind of hands that could put a man back together after he'd been taken apart by explosives, or bullets, or time. She carried a medical kit that looked like it had been through 3 wars, because it had. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. Aldridge had run field hospitals in places where the Geneva Convention was more of a suggestion than a rule. Mara, Kit, they didn't shake hands, just stood facing each other. History between them, not all of it good. Hale said you need a medic. I do. He also said the package is Garrett Lennox. It is. Aldridge's jaw tightened. I treated Lennox the day before he disappeared. Shrapnel wound to the leg. Not life-threatening. I patched him up. Told him to stay off it for 48 hours. Told Hale the same thing. Recommended medevac. Hale didn't listen. Hale never listened. He sent Lennox on that mission anyway. Told me the mission was critical. Couldn't wait. Had to move immediately. And you... Aldridge's voice was sharp now. Cut. You were second in command. You could have backed me up. You could have told Hale to wait. But you didn't. You followed orders. And Lennox paid the price. The accusation hung in the air. True. Undeniable. You're right. I should have fought harder. I didn't. That's on me. But I'm trying to make it right now. Are you in or not? Aldridge stared at her for a long moment, weighing, calculating. Finally, she nodded. I'm in, but not for you, not for Hale, for Lennox. He deserves better than what we gave him. We all do. The third arrival changed the temperature in the room. Staff Sergeant Dylan Cade, 33 years old, Army Ranger, weapons specialist. The kind of operator who could field strip an M4 blindfolded and put it back together faster than most men could load a magazine. He walked with the confidence of youth, the certainty that came from never having failed a mission, never having left a man behind, never having made the impossible choice between mission and morals. Mara recognized him immediately, not from operations, he was too young for that, from photographs, from intelligence briefings. He was Victor Cade's nephew. Dillon stopped in front of the group, snapped to attention out of habit. Staff Sergeant Dillon Cade reporting. At ease, Sergeant. Mara studied him, looking for tells, for loyalties, for the angle. You understand this mission is unsanctioned, illegal? If we're caught, there's no cavalry coming. Yes, ma'am. You understand we're going after a prisoner held by a Sunni militia that will torture us if they catch us, that will execute us on camera if we fail. Yes, ma'am. You understand your uncle is working for the other side? That we might have to kill him? That made Dillon flinch, just slightly, but he recovered fast. Victor Cade stopped being my uncle when he went mercenary. Family is blood, but honor is choice. I choose this mission. Why? Because I joined the army to save people, not to watch them get sold to the highest bidder. If Lennox is alive, he deserves to come home. That's the job. Mara nodded slowly. You'll do. The fourth and final arrival was the youngest, Corporal Evelyn Rourke, 28 years old, Signal Corps, cyber warfare specialist, the kind of operator who could hack a military satellite network with a laptop in 15 minutes. Scottish heritage visible in her features. Red hair, pale skin, eyes that flickered with the constant processing of someone who saw the world in data streams. She carried a backpack that contained more computing power than the Pentagon had in 1985. Laptops, tablets, encryption software, the tools of modern warfare. Corporal Rourke, ma'am. Evie's voice had a slight accent. Her family emigrated from Edinburgh when she was 10. The Scottish lilt never quite left. Hale says you're the best signals intelligence operator in the Army. Top 5, ma'am. Best is a subjective measurement. Can you hack Iraqi militia communications? Already did. They're using commercial encryption, civilian grade. It's like leaving the front door unlocked. Can you find Lennox's location? If he's still where the intel says, yes. If they moved him, it'll take longer, but I'll find him. Mara looked at her team. 4 operators, 59, 54, 33, 28, ages spanning 3 decades, experience levels from seasoned veteran to digital native. This was her strike force. This was what she had to work with. It would have to be enough. Listen up, this mission is black, blacker than black. No official support, no backup, no rescue. If we're captured, the United States government will deny we exist. Our families will get a letter saying we died in a training accident. That's the deal. Anyone who can't accept that, walk away now. No judgment, no consequences. Nobody moved. Good. We deploy in 48 hours. Between now and then, I need to know what each of you can actually do. Not what's in your file, what you can do under pressure. Kit, you're first. Aldridge raised an eyebrow. You want to test me? I want to trust you. Trust comes from knowing capabilities, not reading resumes. Fine, give me a scenario. Mara pointed to Brennan. Cole, you've got a sucking chest wound. Left side, punctured lung. We're 30 minutes from exfil. No medevac available. What's your move? Aldridge didn't hesitate. 3-sided occlusive dressing. Seal 3 sides to allow air to escape but prevent entry. Prevents tension pneumothorax. If I don't have a chest seal, I use the cellophane wrapper from an MRE packet and 100-mile-an-hour tape. Apply during exhalation. Time it wrong, I trap air in the pleural space and kill him anyway. Monitor for tension pneumo. If pressure builds, burp the dressing. Decompress with needle if necessary. Ambient temperature is 30 degrees. Ground is frozen. How does that change treatment? Place the dressing over clothing, not bare skin. Fabric provides insulation. Expose skin to apply treatment in sub-freezing temperatures. I add frostbite trauma to penetrating trauma. Patient shock accelerates. Death follows faster. Mara nodded. You pass. Dylan, you're up. Weapons. Dylan straightened. Ready. We're breaching a compound. Guard towers at corners. Unknown number of hostiles inside. I need suppressed fire, accurate to 400 meters, in low-light conditions. What's your loadout? M4 carbine, Daniel Defense Rail System, Trijicon ACOG, 4-power magnification, PEQ-15 laser for night operations, AAC suppressor, subsonic ammunition, 300 blackout, 220 grain, reduces muzzle velocity but maintains stopping power at close range. Switch to supersonic if engagement extends past 200 meters. Why subsonic if it reduces range? Because suppressed supersonic rounds still generate a ballistic crack. Subsonic eliminates the crack. In urban environments, sound discipline saves lives. I'll sacrifice 50 meters of range for tactical surprise. Good. Evie, you're next. Intelligence. Evie looked up from her tablet. She'd been running diagnostics the entire time. Multitasking came naturally to her generation. Ma'am, I need a human intelligence source in Iraq. Someone local, someone trustworthy, someone who owes us. I don't trust satellites. I don't trust drones. I trust people. Find me someone. You want human in a country where we've been persona non grata since 2011? That's impossible, is the baseline, Corporal. Give me a name by tomorrow or you're off the team. Evie's expression hardened. Challenge accepted. She turned back to her tablet, fingers flying across the screen. Mara turned to Brennan last. Cole, demolitions. Yes, ma'am. I need you to breach a reinforced concrete wall. 30 centimeters thick, minimal noise, maximum effect. No shaped charges, too loud. No thermite, too visible. How do you do it? Brennan scratched his chin, thinking. Old school problem solving, no computers, just decades of experience in physics. Water jet cutting, hydraulic pressure, slow, quiet, takes time but it's silent. Or linear shaped charge placed in a pre-scored pattern, detonate during a distraction, thunder flash or breaching charge on the opposite side of the compound. Acoustic camouflage. They hear the first explosion, they don't hear the second. Time required? 15 minutes to place the charges, 10 seconds to detonate. Total operational window, 15 minutes, 10 seconds. Make it 10 minutes, we won't have 15. I'll make it work. Mara looked at her team again. Really looked. These were the people she was going to trust with her life. These were the people who would go into hell with her to pull out one man who'd been there for 21 years. We deploy in 48 hours. I'll brief the full mission plan tomorrow. For now, get your gear squared away. Check your equipment. Make your peace with whatever God you pray to. Because once we cross that border, we're on our own. The team dispersed, checking gear, running diagnostics, preparing. Mara walked outside. The hangar sat on the edge of a runway, private airstrip. Beyond it, farmland stretching to the horizon. Normal America. The America that didn't know people like her existed. The America she'd spent nearly 40 years protecting from threats it would never hear about. Brennan joined her, stood in silence for a moment, then spoke. Boss, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why'd you really come back? You were done. Out. Retired. You could have ignored Hale's call. Let someone else handle this. Mara didn't answer immediately. She looked at the horizon, at the sunset painting the sky in reds and golds. I left Lennox behind once. I've lived with that for 21 years. I'm not living with it anymore. This time, I'm bringing him home. Or I'm dying with him. Either way, the debt gets paid. Brennan nodded. understanding. For what it's worth, you're the only person I'd follow on this mission. You're the only one crazy enough to believe we can pull it off. Crazy is the job requirement. They stood together, two operators who'd seen too much and done more, watching the sunset on their last mission. Tomorrow, they'd brief the plan. The next day, they'd deploy. And somewhere in Iraq, in a cell in a black site that didn't exist on any map, a man named Garrett Lennox waited. 21 years of waiting. Ghost was coming, and hell was coming with her. The briefing room smelled of coffee and old concrete. Maps covered every surface. Satellite imagery, topographical surveys, intelligence reports printed on paper, because digital left traces, and traces got people killed. Mara stood at the head of the table. Her team sat around her. Brennan to her right, Aldridge to her left, Dylan and Evie across from each other. All eyes forward, all attention focused. Outside, rain hammered against the hangar roof. March in Maryland, cold, gray, the kind of weather that seeped into bones and stayed there. Mara tapped the largest map. Iraq, the Western Desert, Anbar Province. This is our target. Black site approximately 15 kilometers outside Ramadi. Former Saddam-era intelligence facility. 3 buildings. Reinforced concrete. Built to withstand American bombing during the invasion. Survived then, still standing now. She pointed to satellite imagery, dated 3 days ago. Resolution good enough to count windows. Current occupants are Sunni militia, 30 to 40 fighters, former Iraqi army, former intelligence officers, the kind of men who know how to run interrogations, how to keep prisoners alive when they want information, how to make them disappear when they don't. Dylan leaned forward, studying the images. Guard towers? 2, northeast and southwest corners. Overlapping fields of fire, effective coverage of the main approach roads. But Mara indicated a section of the compound's southern perimeter. This drainage culvert, 1,200 millimeter diameter, runs from outside the compound into the basement level. Original construction, designed for sewage. Never properly secured because they assumed no one could fit through it with tactical gear. Can we? Evie asked. Barely. 1 person, minimal kit, it'll be tight. Brennan traced the perimeter with his finger. Entry team size? 2, me and Dylan. Kit and Evie stay with the vehicle at the primary rally point, 3 kilometers out. Cole, you're our insurance. What kind of insurance? Mara pulled out another map. This one showing terrain features around the compound. Hills to the north, wadi system to the west, open ground to the east and south. You position here, northern ridge, 800 meters from the compound. You've got clear line of sight to both guard towers and the main courtyard. If things go sideways, you provide covering fire and create a distraction. Give us time to extract. That's a suicide position. I'll be exposed. No cover, no concealment once I start shooting. I know, Brennan nodded slowly. Okay, I can work with that. Aldridge spoke up, her voice measured, clinical. What's Lennox's condition? Medical status? If he's been held for 21 years, we're looking at malnutrition, possible infection, chronic injuries that never healed properly, psychological trauma. He might not be ambulatory. We operate on the assumption he can't walk. Dylan and I will carry him if necessary. Through a 1,200 millimeter drainage pipe? We'll make it work. That's not a plan, that's a prayer. Sometimes prayers are all we have. Evie tapped her tablet, brought up a schematic, digital rendering of the compound's interior, rooms, hallways, cell blocks. I've been analyzing comm intercepts. The militia uses this facility for 3 purposes: weapon storage, training, and detention. Based on radio chatter, they're holding prisoners in the eastern cell block, basement level. How reliable is that intel? 80% confidence. The other 20% is accounting for the possibility they moved him. or the possibility our intercepts are being fed false information. Mara studied the schematic, memorizing every room, every corridor, every potential choke point. Timeline. We insert after dark. Local sunset is 1800 hours. We move at 2200, 4 hours after dark. Guards are fatigued. Attention is lowest. We breach the drainage culvert at 2230. 18-minute window to locate Lennox and reach the extraction point before the next guard rotation. 18 minutes? Dylan's voice carried skepticism. That's impossibly tight. Impossible is the baseline. You'll learn that. And if we don't make the 18-minute window, then we're detected. Quick reaction force responds. We fight our way out. Casualties are likely. Success is not guaranteed. Silence. The rain continued its percussion against the roof. Brennan broke the quiet. Exfil plan? Primary exfil is by vehicle. Kit drives. Evie navigates. We move north to the Syrian border, 45 kilometers. Cross at an unmonitored section. Private helicopter waiting on the Syrian side. Civilian contractor. Paid in advance, no questions asked. And if the vehicle is compromised? Secondary exfil is on foot. Overland to the same border crossing, 90 kilometers. 3 days of movement through hostile territory with limited supplies and a prisoner who may not be able to walk. That's not a contingency plan. That's a death sentence. Then we make sure the primary plan works. Evie raised her hand. I found your human source. All eyes turned to her. Name is Youssef Khalidi, Iraqi national, age 62, former translator for the CIA, worked with Special Activities Division from 2003 to 2011. When we pulled out, he stayed, went underground, still has contacts, still has access. How'd you find him? I didn't. I found his son. Youssef's son emigrated to Dearborn, Michigan in 2015. He maintains contact with his father via encrypted email. I reached out. Explain the situation. General terms, no specifics. Youssef responded within 6 hours. He remembers you, ma'am. Mara felt something twist in her chest. Memory. Guilt. What did he say? He said, and I quote, Saida Ghost, I knew you would return. I will help, but I will not meet face to face. Too dangerous. I will leave supplies and current intelligence at GPS coordinates. Trust no one else. The desert has many ears. Evie slid a piece of paper across the table. GPS coordinates. Written by hand, no digital record. Mara took the paper, looked at the numbers. Coordinates in the Iraqi desert. A place she swore she'd never return to. Good work, Corporal. This is exactly what we needed. The briefing continued for another hour. Details, contingencies, equipment checks, medical protocols, communication procedures. When they finished, Brennan lingered, waited until the others left. Boss, there's something you need to know about 2003. Something Hale classified above your clearance level. Mara looked up. Tell me. Brennan pulled out a flask, took a drink. The mission was hunting a weapons cache. That part was true. What wasn't true was the intelligence source. The asset who fed us the location wasn't Iraqi, he was Russian. GRU, military intelligence. He gave us the coordinates knowing it was an ambush. Why would Russian intelligence set up American operators? Because they wanted to test Iraqi militia capabilities, wanted to see if Sunni insurgents could successfully trap and capture American special forces. It was a field test. We were the lab rats. Lennox was the prize. The Russians wanted an American operator alive. They sold him to the Iraqis. Who sold him to the militia, who've been keeping him alive for 21 years because he's valuable? Mara absorbed this, felt the implications spreading. Does Hale know you're telling me this? Hale is dying. What's he going to do? I'm telling you because you deserve to know what you're walking into. If we pull Lennox out, if he talks, It exposes decades of covert warfare between U.S. and Russian intelligence services. Mara stood. Then we don't fail. Deployment day arrived gray and cold. A civilian charter flight waited at the private airstrip. Unmarked, no tail number visible, the kind of aircraft that appeared in no flight logs. The team loaded gear, weapons cases, medical supplies, communications equipment, demolitions kit, everything sealed, everything deniable. The flight to Jordan took 14 hours, one refueling stop in Germany, no customs, no immigration. The team slept in shifts. Mara didn't sleep. She reviewed the mission plan, memorized every detail. They landed in Amman just after dawn. Jordan, ally nation, but even allies had limits. The Jordanian government officially knew nothing about this flight. A vehicle waited. Toyota Land Cruiser, white, dusty, nondescript. At the GPS coordinates, they found a supply cache, hidden under rocks in a wadi 20 kilometers from the Iraqi border. Food, water, local clothing, current intelligence reports, and a handwritten note. Mara read it twice, memorized it, burned it. The compound held prisoners. One American, eastern cell block, basement level, third cell from the stairs. Guards changed shift at 2200 hours, 18 minutes. We have confirmation, Mara said. Lennox is there. They spent 6 hours in silence, each person lost in thought, in preparation. At 2100 hours they moved. The border crossing was unofficial. No checkpoint, no guards, just open desert. They drove with headlights off, night vision guiding them. Evie navigated. 3 kilometers to primary rally point. They reached the rally point at 21:45, 15 minutes ahead of schedule. Brennan exited first. Barrett M107.50 caliber rifle. I'll be on the ridge in 20 minutes. He disappeared into the darkness. Kit established a defensive perimeter. M4 carbine, medical kit. Evie set up communications, laptop, satellite link, encrypted radio. Dylan and Mara prepared for infiltration. Minimal gear, suppressed pistols, knives, night vision, no body armor. At 2200 hours, Brennan's voice crackled over the radio. Overwatch in position. I have eyes on the compound. 2 guards in the north tower, 2 in the south tower, 4 on foot patrol. Interior is dark. I count heat signatures consistent with 10 to 15 individuals inside the main building. Mara keyed her radio. Copy. We're moving to the culvert entrance. Radio silence unless emergency. She looked at Dylan. Ready? As I'll ever be. They moved through the darkness. The compound appeared ahead. Lights in the guard towers, voices carrying across the open ground. The drainage culvert entrance was exactly where the intelligence said. 1,200 millimeter concrete pipe, partially buried. Mara examined it. Tight, very tight. You first, I'll follow. Move slow, no noise. If you get stuck, don't panic. Breathe out, make yourself smaller. Dylan nodded, entered the pipe, disappeared into darkness. Mara counted to 30, then followed. The culvert was worse than she expected. Narrow, claustrophobic. The concrete pressed against her shoulders. She had to exhale completely to fit, had to move like a snake. Her night vision showed Dylan ahead, moving carefully. They crawled for 10 minutes, 30 meters that felt like 30 miles. Then Dylan stopped, whispered back, exit ahead, grate, lock from inside. Mara caught up, examined the grate, old, rusted. A simple padlock held it closed. She pulled out lock picks, worked in darkness, by feel. The lock was crude. 30 seconds and it clicked open. They emerged into a basement corridor. Fluorescent lights, concrete walls, the smell of mold and human misery. Mara checked her watch. 22:13. 17 minutes until the guard change. The cell block was east. They moved through shadows. A guard sat at a desk, smoking, reading. A K-47 leaned against the wall. He looked bored. Mara signaled Dylan. You go left, I'll go right. They moved simultaneously. The guard looked up too late. Mara's hand covered his mouth. Dylan's knife found his throat. Quick. Quiet. The guard slumped. They dragged the body into a storage closet. The cell block door was unlocked. Inside, 4 cells. 3 occupied. Third cell from the stairs. A figure sat against the wall. Thin, gaunt, gray beard. Scars visible even in dim light. But when the flashlight hit his face, his eyes opened. Blue eyes. Alert. Alive. Mara's voice was barely a whisper. Garrett? The figure stared. Disbelief. Hope. Recognition. Mara? Or am I hallucinating again? I'm real. I came back. Tears tracked down Lennox's face. I knew you would. Mara worked the lock. The cell door swung open. She knelt beside Lennox. Malnutrition, old injuries, scars from torture, but alive. Can you walk? I can try. She helped him stand. He was shockingly light. Dylan appeared in the doorway, then froze. His face went pale. Mara turned. A man stood behind Dylan, gun pressed to the back of Dylan's head, smile cold. Victor Cade. Hello, Ghost. Took you long enough. Mara's hand moved toward her pistol. Cade's gun pressed harder against Dylan's skull. I wouldn't, unless you want to watch your operator's brain decorate this wall. Mara froze. Calculated. Distance. Angles. Odds. All bad. How did you know we were coming? Because I've been waiting for 3 months. I knew someone would try to rescue Lennox. Knew it would be you. Hale's too predictable. You're too loyal. Let Dylan go. Your contract is with me, not him. My contract is with whoever pays the most. And my current client wants you both dead. You and Lennox. Loose ends from 2003. Who's your client? Ask Hale. Oh wait, he's dying. Cade gestured with the gun. Drop your weapon. Kick it over. 3, 2. Mara dropped her pistol, kicked it toward Cade. Good girl. Now. An explosion shattered the night. West Wall. Massive. Deafening. Brennan's demolition charges. The building shook. Lights flickered. Smoke poured through the corridors. Cade was distracted. Half a second. Mara moved. Fast. Training replacing thought. Her hand caught Cade's wrist. Twisted. The gun fired. Wild. Bullet into ceiling. Dylan dropped. Rolled. Came up with his knife. Mara and Cade grappled. Close quarters. Brutal. He was younger. Stronger. She was meaner. More desperate. Her knee found his groin. He grunted. She drove an elbow into his face. Felt cartilage crunch. Cade fell back, blood pouring from his nose. Mara grabbed her pistol, leveled it. Yield. Cade laughed, blood on his teeth. Kill me. You're a killer. No, I'm a soldier. Difference is I choose when to kill. She hit him. Hard. Pistol to temple. He went down. Unconscious. Alarms wailed. Footsteps pounding. Voices shouting. Dylan grabbed Lennox, threw him over his shoulder. We need to move. Now. They ran. Through smoke. Through chaos. Brennan's demolition had blown a hole in the west wall. Outside, gunfire. Muzzle flashes. Brennan's Barrett booming from the ridge. 50 caliber rounds punching through vehicles. Through walls. The radio crackled. Brennan's voice, strained. Boss, you've got 12 hostiles closing on your position. I'm engaging, but I can't stop them all. Copy, we're moving to exfil. They reached the hole in the wall, scrambled through. Bullets cracked past. Close. Dylan ran with Lennox. Mara provided covering fire. Then Dylan went down. Bullet to the leg. He screamed, dropped Lennox. Kit's voice on the radio. I'm coming to you. The Land Cruiser roared across the desert, headlights blazing, Kit driving, Evie in the passenger seat, firing an M4 out the window. The vehicle slid to a stop. Kit jumped out. Combat medic mode. She reached Dylan, applied tourniquet, worked fast. He'll live, but we need to move, now. They loaded into the vehicle. Lennox, Dylan, Mara providing covering fire. Then she stopped. Looked back at the compound. Brennan was still on that ridge, still firing. Cole, exfil now, that's an order. Static, then his voice, calm, resolved. Negative, boss, they've got me bracketed. 12 hostiles closing. If I move, they overrun you. I can hold them, give you time. Cole, no, we don't leave people. You're not leaving me. I'm staying. This is my choice. Mara's hand clenched around the radio. Cole, tell my daughters I love them. Tell them their old man went out a hero. Gunfire intensified. Brennan's position lit up. Tracers, RPG. Ghost, tell Hale we're even now. The explosion was massive. The ridge erupted, fire and smoke and finality. Mara stared, frozen. Kit grabbed her, pulled her into the vehicle. He's gone. We have to move. The Land Cruiser accelerated, racing north, toward the border. Behind them, the compound burned. Sirens wailed. In the back seat, Lennox sat silent, tears streaming. He died for me. He died so I could live. Mara couldn't answer. She just held the radio, still warm from Brennan's last transmission. The pursuit began 3 minutes later. The Land Cruiser tore through the Iraqi desert at speeds that tested faith. Kit drove like she was outrunning death itself. Behind them, headlights multiplied. 3 vehicles, then 5, then 8. Evie hunched over her laptop. 2 technicals with mounted machine guns. 6 motorcycles. They're coordinating on open channels. They know where we are. Mara twisted in her seat. Calculated distances. How far to the border? 42 kilometers. At current speed, 38 minutes. They'll catch us in 20. In the back, Dylan lay across Lennox's lap. His face was gray. Blood loss. Shock. Lennox held Dylan's hand, spoke quietly. Stay with me, son. You didn't carry me out of hell just to die in a car chase. Dylan's voice was weak. Tell my uncle, tell Victor, he was wrong. Honor matters. You can tell him yourself when we get home. The first burst of machine gun fire came at the 22-minute mark. 50 caliber rounds punched through the desert floor 50 meters behind them. Kit swerved, hard. The vehicle went up on 2 wheels, stayed upright. We can't outrun them. Kit's voice was strained. We need to fight or we need a miracle. Mara made the decision in 2 seconds. Stop the vehicle. What? Stop. Now. Here. Kit slammed the brakes. The Land Cruiser slewed sideways, stopped in a cloud of dust. Mara grabbed her rifle, looked at Lennox. You remember how to shoot? Lennox's smile was grim. Like riding a bike. She handed him Dylan's M4. He checked the chamber. Loaded. Safety off. Kit, you keep driving. Evie navigates. Get Dylan across the border. Get him to a hospital. And you? Lennox and I are going to buy you time. Kit stared. That's suicide. That's tactical delay. Now go. Kit hesitated. Then she understood. She nodded. Don't you dare die, Mara. The Land Cruiser accelerated again, racing north, carrying Dylan and their only hope. Mara and Lennox stood alone in the desert. 2 operators, 162, 144 and broken by 21 years of torture, against 8 vehicles and at least 30 hostiles. The odds were terrible, but they'd faced worse. Mara found cover behind a rock formation. Lennox positioned 15 meters to her left, creating crossfire. The militia vehicles closed, confident. At 150 meters, she opened fire. The first round took out the driver of the lead technical. The vehicle swerved, rolled, tumbled across the desert. The second round hit the gunner on the second technical. He dropped. Lennox fired, Short, controlled bursts. His hands shook from malnutrition, but his aim was true. A motorcycle went down, then another. The militia scattered. Realized they weren't facing panicked refugees. Return fire came heavy, AK-47s, PKM machine guns, RPG. They sprayed bullets everywhere. Most rounds went high or wide. Mara and Lennox fired with precision, but they were only two, and the militia was many. Slowly, inevitably, the enemy flanked their position. Mara's radio crackled. Kit's voice, "We're at the border. Dylan's stable. Hilo is inbound. Where are you?" Still buying time. "Mara, you need to disengage. Now." "Not yet." She changed magazines, counted her ammunition. 3 magazines left, 90 rounds. Lennox crawled over. His face was pale, exhausted. "We can't hold this position much longer." "I know. There's a Wadi system 300 meters north. I remember it from 2003, deep enough to hide in." "Can you make 300 meters? Can you carry me if I can't?" Mara smiled despite everything. "Yeah, I can." They fell back, covering each other, leapfrogging. The militia pressed, assing weakness. An RPG exploded 10 meters to Mara's right. The concussion threw her sideways. Lennox grabbed her, pulled her up. "Move! Move!" They reached the wadi, dropped into it. The walls were 3 meters high. Above them the militia gathered. 30 men, maybe more, shouting, coordinating. Mara checked her ammunition. 2 magazines, 60 rounds. Lennox had 1 magazine, 30 rounds. She pulled out her sat phone, dialed. "Kit, we're pinned. Wadi system, 5 kilometers south of the border. We're not making it out." Kit's voice broke. "Mara, listen, get Dylan home. Tell Hale we found Lennox. Tell him the mission was a success. Don't do this. It's already done. Ghost out." She ended the call, looked at Lennox. "I'm sorry I left you 21 years ago. I'm sorry it took me this long to come back." Lennox smiled, peace in his eyes. "You came back. That's what matters. You kept your promise. 21 years is more than a while. I had nothing but time. Spent every day knowing you'd come. Believing. Faith isn't about evidence, Mara. It's about trust. I trusted you. I was right." The militia moved above them, boots crunching, voices calling coordinates. Mara raised her rifle. "When they come, aim for center mass." "Roger that." They waited. 2 operators at the end of the line, ready to make their last stand count. Then the sound changed. A new sound, distinct. Rotor blades. Mara looked up, saw nothing, but the sound was getting louder. The militia heard it too, started shouting, pointing, panicking. A helicopter appeared over the wadi rim. Not a military bird, civilian, Bell 412. But mounted on the side door was a M134 minigun, and behind that minigun stood Kit Aldridge. Her voice boomed over a loudspeaker. "Mara Sinclair, you stubborn old ghost, I told you not to die." The minigun opened up. 6,000 rounds per minute. The sound was apocalyptic. The militia tried to scatter, but there was no cover from that kind of firepower. The miniguns swept across their positions like the hand of God erasing mistakes. In 30 seconds, it was over. A rope dropped into the wadi. Kit's voice on the radio. "Climb, or I'm coming down there and dragging you both up by your ears." Mara looked at Lennox. "Can you climb?" "After 21 years of waiting, I could climb Everest." He went first, slow, painful, but determined. Mara followed. Her arms burned. Her shoulders screamed. But she climbed. They reached the helicopter. Hands pulled them aboard. Kit, Evie, the pilot. The helicopter banked hard, accelerated, racing north toward the Syrian border. Mara collapsed against the bulkhead, breathing hard, alive, impossibly alive. Kit knelt beside her, anger and relief warring on her face. You were going to die down there. The mission was to get Lennox home. I got him home. The mission was to get everyone home. When does it end, Mara? When do you stop sacrificing yourself? Mara had no answer. Because Kit was right. They crossed into Syrian airspace 20 minutes later. In the cargo area, a medic worked on Dylan. Field surgery. The kid would live. Lennox sat strapped into a jump seat, staring out the window, watching Iraq disappear. Mara sat beside him. Neither spoke for a long time. Finally, Lennox broke the silence. 21 years. I never gave up. You want to know why? Why? Because Hale told me something once. Back in 2003, he said, Ghost never leaves anyone behind. She might take her time. She might make you wait, but she always comes back. I held on to that every day, every hour. I held on to that one truth. Ghost comes back. Mara felt tears on her face. I'm sorry it took so long. You came. That's all that matters. The helicopter landed at a private airfield in southern Syria. Another plane waited. Gulfstream G650, luxury aircraft converted for medical transport. They loaded Dylan onto a stretcher. Medical equipment surrounded him. Monitors, IV bags, a full trauma team. Lennox walked onto the plane under his own power. Barely, but he walked, refusing to be carried. The flight to Ramstein Air Base took 6 hours. The team slept in shifts. Except Mara. She sat awake, watching, thinking. Evie approached, sat down across from her. Ma'am, I need to tell you something. Go ahead. I've been monitoring communications, Iraqi militia, Syrian government, but also American channels, CIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. Someone's been tracking our movements. Someone with access to classified frequencies. Who? I can't confirm, but the encryption patterns match agency protocols. Someone inside Langley has been following this operation. The timing of militia movements, the way Cade knew we were coming, the precision of their ambush, someone told them. Mara processed this, felt the implication spreading. Do you have proof? Circumstantial, but strong. Hale, Evie nodded. It's the only explanation that fits. Hale sent us to rescue Lennox, but he also told Cade we were coming, covered both outcomes. If we succeeded, Lennox comes home and Hale dies a hero. If we failed, Cade eliminates us and the secret stays buried. Mara stood, walked to the window, looked out at clouds 30,000 feet below. Hale had betrayed them, not just in 2003, but now. Again. Always. The pattern was clear. The general who sacrificed pawns to protect the kingdom. Nearly 40 years she'd followed his orders, believed in his mission, trusted his judgment. Nearly 40 years of being Ghost. And Ghost was built on a foundation of lies. They landed at Ramstein at dawn. Military ambulances waited, medical teams. Dylan was rushed to surgery, Lennox to intensive care. Both would live, both would heal. But some wounds went deeper than flesh. Mara made one phone call. Sat phone, encrypted line. She knew the number by heart. It rang twice. Then Hale's voice. Weak, dying, but still sharp. Ghost, report. Mission complete. Lennox is alive. Dylan will survive. Brennan is dead. A pause. I'm sorry about Cole. He was a good operator. He died because you sent us into a trap. You told Cade we were coming. You played both sides. You wanted Lennox rescued, but you wanted us dead if we failed. Silence on the line. Long enough that Mara thought he'd hung up. Then Hale spoke. His voice different now. Honest. Raw. I did what I had to do. What I've always done. Protected the mission. Protected the agency. You think I wanted to sacrifice you? I trained you. I made you into Ghost. You were the best operator I ever commanded. But the mission is bigger than any individual. That's what it means to serve. No, that's what it means to be a coward. You hide behind duty, behind necessity, behind the mission. But really, you're just afraid. Afraid to make the hard choice. Afraid to sacrifice yourself instead of sacrificing others. You don't understand the pressure, the impossible calculations. I understand perfectly. You taught me. For nearly 40 years, you taught me that mission comes first, that operators are expendable. Well, I learned the lesson. But I'm done. Ghost is retired. Mara Sinclair is taking back her life. You can't just walk away. Watch me. She ended the call, destroyed the sat phone, crushed it under her boot. Kit found her an hour later, standing outside the hospital, smoking a cigarette she'd bummed from a German nurse. Didn't know you smoked. I don't, but today seems like a good day to start bad habits. Kit leaned against the wall beside her. Dylan's out of surgery. They saved the leg. He'll walk again, probably run. Good. Lennox is stable, malnourished, dehydrated. A dozen old injuries that healed wrong. Psychological trauma that'll take years to process. But he's alive, talking, asking about you. Tell him I'll visit when he's ready. You going to tell me what happened on that phone call? You look like someone shot your dog. Mara took a long drag, exhaled smoke into the German morning. Hale betrayed us, set us up. Wanted Lennox rescued, but wanted us dead if we failed. Evie found the proof. Kit absorbed this. Didn't look surprised. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. Hale's dying anyway. Cancer will finish what karma started. I'm just done. Done with the agency. Done with black operations. Done with being Ghost. What will you do instead? Mara looked at the sunrise, orange and gold painting the sky. A new day, a new start. I don't know. Maybe go back to Montana. Maybe teach. Maybe find some way to pass on what I know without passing on the poison. Kit smiled. Teaching. You'd be good at that. Terrifying, but good. You think? I think operators like you don't retire. You just find new wars to fight, new people to save, new ways to make the world slightly less terrible. That's who you are, Ghost or not. They stood together in silence, two operators at the end of their war, watching the sun rise on whatever came next. 2 weeks later, Mara received a package. No return address, just her name on a label at the Montana cabin. Inside was a medal, the Intelligence Star, awarded for valor, for extraordinary heroism, for actions that officially never happened, and a letter, handwritten, Hale's script, shaky now, dying man's tremor visible in the ink. Mara, by the time you read this, I'll be dead. Cancer won. I suppose that's fitting. I spent nearly 40 years poisoning the world with secrets and lies. Only fair that poison should kill me too. I want you to know I'm sorry. Not for the missions, not for the sacrifices. Those were necessary. But for lying to you, for using you, for making you into Ghost and then hating what you became. You were right. I was a coward. I made impossible choices by making other people pay the price. Brennan, Lennox, you. All pawns sacrificed to protect a king who didn't deserve protection. I'm leaving you something. A file. Classified above top secret. Everything I know about the Russian intelligence operations during the Iraq War. The truth about 2003. The truth about why we left Lennox. What you do with it is your choice. Burn it and the secret dies with me. Or expose it and let the chips fall. Either way, you're free. Ghost is dead. Mara Sinclair gets to choose who she becomes next. I hope you choose better than I did. I hope you teach the next generation to be better than we were. I hope you find peace. Semper Fi, kid. Even cowards can love. Even monsters can regret. Even dying men can hope for redemption. Declan. Mara read the letter 3 times, then burned it. Watched the paper curl and blacken and disappear. The file she kept, locked in a safe, insurance, or leverage, Or maybe just a reminder that some truths were worth dying for. 6 months passed. Garrett Lennox recovered. Slowly, painfully, but recovered. He testified before a closed congressional committee, told them everything. The Russian intelligence operation, the fabricated WMD evidence, the 21 years of captivity. Some heads rolled, some careers ended. But most of the truth stayed classified. That was how these things worked. Dylan Cade returned to active duty, walked with a limp, but walked. He requested assignment to Ranger training, said he wanted to teach the next generation what real operators look like, what honor meant. Kid Aldridge went back to Johns Hopkins, taught trauma surgery, trained the next generation of combat medics. Evie Rourke stayed in the Army, Cyber Warfare Division. She monitored communications, intercepted threats, protected operators in the field. And Mara Sinclair stood at the front of a classroom at Fort Benning, Georgia. The students were young, 18, 19, 20, fresh-faced and eager, ready to prove themselves. Private Sienna Walker sat in the front row, 23 years old, blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, eyes bright with determination in something else. Something that looked like hunger, the need to prove that women belonged here. Mara recognized that look. She'd worn it herself nearly 40 years ago. The course was Advanced Marksmanship, Sniper Fundamentals. My name is Mara Sinclair. I'm a civilian contractor, former CIA, former operator. I've been shooting people for nearly 40 years. Some of them deserved it, most of them did. All of them died because I was better at my job than they were at theirs. The classroom was silent, attention absolute. I'm here to teach you one thing, not how to kill. Any idiot can kill. I'm here to teach you when not to kill, when to wait, when to breathe, when to let the target walk because taking the shot would compromise the mission. That's the difference between a shooter and a sniper. Shooters react, snipers decide. She pulled out an old rifle, M24, bolt action, the kind of weapon she'd carried for decades. This rifle is older than most of you. It doesn't have all the modern bells and whistles. No computerized rangefinder, no ballistic calculator, just iron sights in physics and decades of muscle memory. She walked to Private Walker, handed her the rifle. Take this to the range, 800-meter target, show me what you can do. Walker's eyes widened. Ma'am, I've never shot at that distance. Then today you learn. On the range, Mara watched Walker struggle. The private was good, better than good. Natural talent visible in how she held the rifle, how she controlled her breathing. But talent wasn't enough. Not at 800 meters. Walker fired, missed, fired again, missed again. 6 shots, 6 misses. Frustration showed on her face, the hunger turning to doubt. Mara approached, knelt beside her. What's your name, Private? Sienna Walker, ma'am. You're gripping too tight, strangling the rifle. It's not your enemy, it's your partner. Relax, breathe. The shot will come. You don't force it, you wait for it. She adjusted Walker's position. Small changes. Grip, shoulder placement, head position. Now, breathe in, breathe out. Find the empty space between breaths. That's where you live. That's where snipers exist. In the pause, in the quiet, in the moment between heartbeats. Walker breathed, settled, her body relaxed. She fired. 800 meters away, the target pinged, hit. Walker's eyes went wide. Disbelief, joy, pride. I did it. You did it. Now do it again. Walker fired, hit, fired, hit, fired, hit. 4 shots in a row, all on target, all clean. She looked at Mara with something like reverence. How did you know I could do it? Because I've been where you are, 23 years old, trying to prove I belonged, trying to show that women can do this, can be operators, can be warriors. The secret is simple. You already are. You just needed someone to show you that you already knew. Ma'am, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Were you a sniper? In the field? Real operations? Mara looked at the horizon, at the Georgia pines, at the blue sky above Fort Benning, at a world that seemed peaceful because people like her had made it that way. Long time ago, different wars, different enemies. Will you teach me, really teach me? Not just the shooting, but the rest, the waiting, the deciding, the knowing when not to pull the trigger. Mara studied this young woman, saw herself 4 decades ago, saw the same hunger, the same determination, the same need to prove something to a world that didn't think women belonged in this profession. Yeah, I'll teach you, but understand something. What I teach you might save your life, or it might destroy it, might turn you into something you don't recognize, might cost you relationships, sleep, peace, the ability to live a normal life. Still want to learn? Walker didn't hesitate. Yes, ma'am. Mara smiled, sad, knowing. Then let's begin. They spent the rest of the afternoon on the range. Mara teaching, Walker learning, old knowledge passing to new hands. As the sun set, Mara walked across Fort Benning, past the training grounds, past the obstacle courses, past the memorials to soldiers who died in wars spanning a century. She stopped at a new memorial, dedicated 3 months ago, bronze plaque, simple inscription, Sergeant Major Cole Brennan, Force Reconnaissance, 1966 to 2024. He chose to stay so others could live. Mara touched the plaque, cold metal under her fingers. I kept the promise, Cole. Got Lennox home, got Dylan home, lost you, lost Ghost. But maybe that's okay. Maybe it's time for someone new, someone better, someone who learns from our mistakes instead of repeating them. The wind whispered through the pines. No answer, no absolution, just wind. She walked away, leaving the memorial behind, leaving Ghost behind, leaving decades of shadows and secrets and sins behind. Ahead, in the distance, Private Walker practiced on the range, firing, hitting, learning, the next generation, the new warriors, the ones who would fight tomorrow's wars. Mara Sinclair would teach them, not how to be Ghost, but how to be better than Ghost, how to save people without losing themselves, how to serve without sacrificing their souls. It wasn't redemption, not really, but it was something. It was enough. She walked to her truck, climbed in, started the engine. The road stretched ahead. Montana was 2,000 miles away. The cabin, the silence, the peace she'd earned. But maybe she wouldn't go back. Maybe Montana was the past. Maybe teaching was the future. Maybe Ghost was dead, but Mara Sinclair had work to do. She drove out of Fort Benning, past the gates, past the guards, into the American night, free, finished, ready for whatever came next. Behind her on the range, the targets stood silent, waiting for tomorrow's warriors. And somewhere a young woman practiced, learning, growing, becoming what the world needed next. Ghost was dead. Long live the future.